What's up, everybody, and welcome to my channel called Pillars Unpacked. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. At a really high level, what this channel is going to be is basically just exploring, touring, and admiring historic churches and cathedrals from all over the world. It's what I'm interested in doing, and I wanted to record just a little kind of intro video at the outset to just explain the why, behind what this channel is going to be before I actually start posting, actual videos and content to the channel. And really the reason is I have just a strong interest and I'm kind of fascinated by historic churches. I love history kind of in a broad sense, but I think the way that some of these very old church buildings, whether they're cathedrals or not, just the way that they connect to the history of the capital C church, whether it's Roman Catholic, Greek Orthodox, part of the Reformed tradition, kind of whatever it is. I just think that you can learn a lot about kind of the history of the time period of when it was constructed, or, the denomination that it belongs to, by actually just seeing the church, seeing the space. And so I think that's pretty interesting. And how that just relates to Christianity in a broad sense, I also think is pretty fascinating. I think it's pretty amazing that there's spaces like this that exist. And when you think that they've been around for literally, in some cases, hundreds of years, and people from all different walks of life exploring that same exact space, and just kind of how that space can transcend time and being principally places of worship. There's obviously like a very, very strong significance to them, and I feel that you can kind of get a sense of that in a lot of these spaces. And just the admiring the architecture, I think, is another piece of it. Just when you know that these are buildings that were literally designed and intended to be ornate, and you can admire the grandeur of them, and knowing that they're buildings that are meant to last and they're meant to have a historical impact. In a lot of cases, they are like the center point of a community or of a city. And I think kind of seeing that importance is very interesting as well. And it's really easy to tell in a lot of cases too. It's kind of crazy to think about the level of kind of the detail and the scale of them, knowing that just there was a extreme amount of work that went into them, whether it was designing it, from an architecture perspective, or just the physical construction of them, which can take decades in some cases, especially considering, whatever the time period is when it's actually being built and what constraints they had at the time. I think it's something interesting to consider, and there's always kind of anecdotal stories that come out of that, which I think are interesting to learn about. So for all these reasons, I think that it's worthwhile, and I think at least for me, it's worth checking them out. In addition to that, one of my all-time favorite books at this point is called The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. And this book it's historical fiction, and it's set in 12th century England. And basically at the center of it, the book is focused on the construction of a major cathedral in England. And, over the course of the book, it takes place over a very long time, like 80 years or something like that. And I just really like how in the course of the book, he traces kind of like the characters' arcs and their stories over time, kind of by the stages of the construction of the cathedral. I love the book. I think it's excellent. If you're interested in any kind of fiction, I think it's a great book that I would recommend. But Follett talks about, in this anniversary edition in the preface, he mentions he's from England, and visiting a cathedral. I forget which one specifically, but he just kind of fell in love with the grandeur of the space and the architecture, and he himself got fascinated and just wanting to learn more about them. And he had been a novelist before that, and so he kind of had the idea to write a book that is, you know, principally about that and the people that are kind of a part of it, whether it's construction, people that just go to the church or kind of around the church, and how that would shape a community. And I definitely learned a lot about just kind of these buildings in general by reading the book, because you can tell that he has a care kind of that he writes with, where he wants to get terms right. He wants things to be, you know, like historically accurate for the time period that he's trying to represent. And so I think reading this book as well kind of sparked that interest as well, again, just knowing that there's a lot of other people that agree and think that these are interesting things that are worthwhile to study and admire. And that's kind of the point of the channel, is just that I hope that there's like-minded people that can just appreciate this and get something out of it. So I'm from the United States, and so principally, I think the videos that I'm able to make are going to kind of focus on or just be closer to like the area that I'm at. So that's kind of where they will typically be. But, you know, I've been to churches all over the world at this point, several countries in Europe and different areas. And I think that they are, in a lot of cases, it's crazy just to think about like how much older a church building can be, even in the country that I'm from, is wild. And just all the history that's kind of wrapped up in that. And so that's the point of the channel, is just to hopefully have like-minded people that are as interested in this. The videos themselves basically are going to be just at the beginning, kind of like a high-level introduction to the church itself. You know, what denomination does the church belong to? When was it built? When was it dedicated? Any kind of broader affiliation, things of that nature. And then we will explore the exterior of the church, and we'll appreciate the architecture from that perspective, and hopefully just kind of do like a thorough, you know, walk and tour around the actual church building, or like the gardens or courtyard that's surrounded, or anything like that. And then when possible, we will take a look at the interior of the church, which is normally what's the most interesting. It's sometimes difficult to be able to do that because, first and foremost, you know, these are places of worship. And so it always needs to be respected if there's, you know, a worship service going on, or if there's any kind of other special event that is taking place. It's not always possible to be able to get, you know, into the interior. And if something like that is going on, that's obviously something that I will always respect. But if we have the opportunity to do so, we will certainly tour the interior as well. And it's usually like, it's the interiors that are the wow factor a lot of times, you know, whether it's like, if it's stained glass or extremely high ceilings with vaulted pillars, ornate mosaics or sculptures, or just some kind of intricate level of detail, there's always something that's worth looking at. And that's where I think it'll be fun to kind of have this channel, because visiting a lot of different churches that were built in different times, different styles, and in different places, I think there'll be something interesting about each one to kind of focus on. And there's probably going to be unique stories to tell with different ones. So I'm very excited about this. Like I said, I'm from the East Coast of the United States, so that's kind of where my videos are going to focus. But as I travel to different places in the US or around the world, I'm going to cover as many as I can. Like I said, I've been to a lot of churches already, but I don't have good video footage from them. So what I'm thinking about doing is just making like a recap video of those with some of the photos that I have, where I can still kind of discuss, you know, things that I thought were interesting and places that I think are definitely worth seeing, especially if you're visiting a certain part of the world. So I'm thinking about doing that in the future as well. And at the conclusion of each video, we'll kind of just give like a recap of things that I thought were interesting, things that I learned, and stuff like that to kind of wrap it up. So I hope that you guys enjoy all the videos. I'm gonna start posting to the channel very soon. If you have any feedback, whether it's a cathedral or a church you would like to see, or just on how you want a video to be structured or things to be discussed, just please let me know, because I am very excited about this. And one other thing is a theme, if you will, of the channel, or something you're going to hear me say a lot, is keep looking up. And obviously the idea of it, when you're in, these grand buildings, churches, you got to look up to admire and appreciate kind of what you're seeing, and to kind of just sense that scale, if you will, of the actual buildings and spaces themselves. But in a broader sense too, I just want I hope that the channels can just give a sense of positivity, and just let what the buildings represent, the best of what they represent, the hope from them. I kind of just want people to take away that as well. So keep looking up is going to kind of represent all those different things, and I hope that this will just be a place where people can come if they're interested in this and just get something out of it. So really hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out, and as always, keep looking up.